In late September 2025, downtown Chicago became the stage for one of the most dramatic confrontations between state and federal power in recent memory. Federal agents, some masked and heavily armed, marched through the city, while Illinois Governor JB Pritzker erupted in outrage, accusing President Donald Trump of unleashing authoritarian force on American soil. This is the story of how the Trump administration escalated its immigration crackdown in Chicago, and how Governor Pritzker, city leaders, and everyday residents fought back. It began with a memo. The Illinois National Guard learned that the Department of Homeland Security had quietly requested 100 military troops to be deployed in Illinois. The official line: protecting ICE facilities and personnel. But to Pritzker, the move looked like something much darker. What I have warned of is now being realized. This is not about preventing crime. This is about intimidation, about power, and it threatens the safety of Illinois residents. Pritzker wasn't alone. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson denounced the move as political theater. He said Trump was militarizing American cities, using federal forces not for safety, but for optics. Over the weekend, shoppers along Michigan Avenue, families, tourists, street vendors, suddenly found themselves surrounded by armed federal agents. Some carried long guns. Others detained residents on site. One Border Patrol chief even admitted that people were being stopped based on how they look. To Pritzker, this wasn't law enforcement. It was harassment. He accused Trump's Homeland Security leaders of lying, of claiming they were targeting violent criminals, while in fact rounding up delivery workers, tamal vendors, and families. Just west of Chicago, outside the ICE processing facility in Broadview, protests turned chaotic. Demonstrators chanting against brutality faced tear gas, rubber bullets, and pepper spray. Even members of the press weren't spared. A CBS Chicago reporter said she was alone in her car, window rolled down, when an ICE agent deliberately fired a pepper ball into her vehicle. The burning chemicals engulfed her cabin, leaving her vomiting and gasping for air. The Broadview Police Department launched a criminal investigation. But to many Illinois leaders, the message was already clear. These were tactics of intimidation, not policing. Governor Pritzker framed the deployments in stark terms. In any other country, if federal agents fired upon journalists and protesters when unprovoked, what would we call it? We'd call it what it is: authoritarianism. Trump, meanwhile, doubled down. On Truth Social, he praised Border Patrol for taking no nonsense and claimed ICE was under siege nationwide. For Trump, the narrative was clear. Chicago was a hellhole overrun with crime. Federal force, he insisted, was the only answer. In the chaos, ordinary lives were upended. A little girl forced to translate for her parents as they were taken into custody. Street vendors arrested in front of customers. Residents reporting harassment simply for not being white. And in one tragic incident, an ICE stop in Chicago ended in death, when an immigrant, attempting to flee, was shot and killed. State officials demanded answers, but federal authorities offered little transparency. Across the country, states began pushing back. Oregon sued the Trump administration, claiming federalization of the National Guard was illegal. California had filed a similar case just months earlier. Illinois signaled it was ready to join the fight. Attorney General Kwame Raoul said his office was preparing to sue if the Pentagon advanced troop deployment. Lawyers had already been working through the weekend, coordinating with counterparts in Oregon. Amid the uncertainty, Pritzker issued a plea to residents: get out your cell phones. Record what you see. Post it. Let the world know. Peacefully demand badge numbers. Speak up for your neighbors. To him, the battle wasn't just legal or political. It was about documenting and resisting what he called a campaign of fear and division. In the end, the clash over ICE in Chicago was bigger than one city. It was a fight over democracy, power, and the limits of federal authority. For Governor JB Pritzker, it was proof that the fight for civil liberties doesn't just happen in faraway countries. It happens here, in Illinois, in Chicago, in the heart of America.